Welcome back to Total Football. We're going to head straight to Tottenham. A 1-0 defeat at Chelsea last night with a big talking point coming from Ange Postecoglou, who insisted his reaction towards the Tottenham fans, where he appeared to cup his ear, were misinterpreted. Now, he's been speaking to the media this morning and we can hear from him right now.
Any fresh injury concerns last night? Mickey, all right?
No, all good. Mickey, he obviously cramped up. Look, he hasn't played 90 minutes for a while, but positive thing is he felt really good apart from, obviously, the cramping up. It was a tough game defensively. He had to work hard, but, everyone else, obviously, nothing significant coming out of the game.
Quick turnaround. Any fresh reflections on last night? Any additional thoughts?
No, not really. I mean, we're sort of 12 hours posted, so not a lot of time to kind of review the game as such. But we'll do that this morning. As I said after the game, tough game. You're playing at Chelsea. It's always a tough venue. They're a good side. I just felt we worked really hard to stay in the game, which is important when you're playing, a tough away game. Just really disappointed with the goal we conceded. I thought we had a chance to deal with it a lot better than what we did. And again, when you're playing away from home, that gives you a mountain to climb. But I thought our response after that was good. We obviously scored, got disallowed, and then we had a couple of good chances towards the end. So disappointing to lose, but I think there was enough positive in there.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of talking points, but you've always said with the fans they've got their right to vent, have their right to an opinion. Do you feel now is unity the only way through this now, especially in the league, and what's to come for the rest of the season?
Yeah, look, I get that seems to be the main talking point out of last night, which is kind of consistent, that people tend to focus on the internals of Tottenham rather than the externals. But look, I made a mistake last night in that I celebrated a goal. I purposely, I think since VAR came in, I think I was up in Scotland. I think the first game VAR came in, there was 4 or 5 incidents. We were standing around and I made conscious decision. I'm not going to really, I'll celebrate, but I'm not going to really celebrate goals anymore because there's no point. You've got to wait for everything to get checked off. Last night, I just felt we needed something, and getting that goal, which I thought was a cracking goal by Pape. I'd obviously heard the supporters weren't happy, with my decision, which is fine. And my response was to celebrate and get them to make some noise now to get behind the team. I thought it was a real momentum shifter, that moment, because I just felt we did finish stronger. So I guess, like I said, my mistake was celebrating a goal, which, the VAR has defeated me again, and I won't be doing that again.
You said something about, you said you felt such a disconnect with the world these days. Is that VAR in general, or just maybe just the season? It's not like you. No,
I'm talking about VAR. I don't get it how, as human beings, we are just so accepting of everything these days that I don't get it. I don't know. I just thought we had a bit more about us as a race in terms of, fighting against things that derail the core of what we believe in. It's like these things, mate. We accepted them in our lives, and now we're trying to reel them all back because we know the damage they do. Too late, horses bolted. It's the same with VAR and football, but we just let it roll on. This is not a new thing, VAR. It's been there for a long time, and the fact that we're still taking 6 minutes, and the fact that from day to day, literally day to day, you don't know whether somebody's going to intervene or not. Literally day to day. It seems like everyone's okay with that, and that's where the disconnect for me is, because I don't. I thought it was a cracking game up until that moment where we were all standing around. I never grew up loving football, and I see other sports where they're happy to stand around and they slot in a couple of commercial breaks as well. But football for me was always about the excitement of up and down, controversies, action all the time. Just like I said, that's where I'm at a disconnect, because it seems like everyone else is quite comfortable with it.
I'm glad you cleared that out, because I thought that was more in your general morale, because I can feel this morning you've got a bit of...
Oh, mate, I'm fine. Mate, I'm fine. No, it doesn't... these kind of things, I think I said after the game, Matt might have asked me about, the fans and, I don't get affected by that. I've been fighting my whole career. I'll continue to fight till I'm told to stop by someone. And mate, I still believe we've got a massive opportunity for ourselves this year, and I'm not going to let that just slip away. Whether that's from external or internal pressure, I'm totally focused on doing that.
And I know you've just spoken about your relationship with the fans. I know last night you asked a lot about it. James Maddison, after the game, said that the fans have every right to be angry with the players. But because you know this group of players so well, I mean, how did it make you feel when you saw the anger that the fans were directing towards the players at the ending of the game?
Yeah, again, it's I don't know. I feel like, people want me to say something that somehow will change the mood of the fans. Maybe I've just never done that. I've never felt like that's my role. My role is to try and produce teams and play a way that gets the support of the fan base behind what we're doing. It's not unusual that they're quite frustrated and angry at the moment. I get that. But at the same time, I think if anyone looks at that group of players, I understand the criticism towards me because I think I'm in charge of the whole thing, and I think that's fair enough. But if anyone looked at those players last night and thought they weren't trying, or that somehow, resigned themselves to their fate, then I'm sorry, they're not watching the right game. I mean, the players are fighting tooth and nail to try and, address our issues, within a really difficult season. And also, like I said, try and take this massive opportunity that's ahead of us. So, I think it's a little bit unfair to be targeting, the players in this situation.
Will you speak to the players in particular today about how will you try and lift their spirits, I suppose, after the way that game went last night?
Look, I don't think, there's no other option, but, we've got a game in, 48 hours' time or whatever it is. So leading into a really big game Thursday night. So we just need to, like with all these things, we've certainly, we've copped our fair share of blows this year, and, we've just got to dust ourselves off and get out there on Sunday and repeat a lot of what happened last night in terms of effort, in terms of some of our work, improve in a couple of areas and try and get some momentum leading into Thursday.
With Southampton obviously struggling at the bottom of the table, is this a good chance for you to rotate your starting 11?
To a certain extent, I think, we're sort of a little bit beyond that in terms of, I think for the most part the group's in a decent place physically where I don't have to sort of get players game time. But like I said, I think it's important we get some momentum leading into, the game on Thursday. So we'll make a couple of changes. We won't make too many.
Hi, Ange. Your decision to take Lucas Bergvall off last night was met by some cheers. Can you just explain what your thinking was behind substituting him?
I think Lucas been outstanding all year actually, but I thought last night he just didn't look himself in terms of physically, and I thought we needed some energy and some running power. We knew he'd finish strong, and I thought Pape gave us that.
Against Fulham, Archie Gray started in midfield. Is the next couple of weeks an opportunity to play him in what he sees as...
Yeah, look, we want to win games of football, so we'll make those decisions. I think we're past the point of just, looking at developing players right now. I think whether it's Archie or any of our players, all they want to do is try and address our current situation and win games of football, and Archie's a big part of that.
Mikey Moore was in the squad last night ahead of Dane Scarlett. Was the issue with Dane, or was that just purely tactical? Yeah,
Dane's been a bit sore. Look, it's been difficult for Dane because he's come off not playing a lot with his loan, and he's kind of been working really hard at training to get his conditioning up, and he was a bit sore the last few days, so we decided to give him the weekend off. Not a major issue. Hopefully he's back training today. Thanks, mate.
Hi, Ange, how are you?
I'm good, mate.
A couple of minutes ago, you were talking about how when you got started watching football and you didn't see players standing around for a long period of time. Am I wrong to say that I feel like because of VAR, how long it takes, you're kind of falling out of love with the game that you grew up knowing? No
doubt. Yeah, it's not the game and maybe I was influenced by England and particularly the old First Division. It was what I loved about it, as opposed to other leagues, was just the frenetic pace of it. It was always in English football. There was always something happening. I loved that, and it's kind of influenced me a lot in terms of the kind of football I like to watch. There's plenty of other leagues, we could have watched, but it was always the English First Division that was, end-to-end stuff. Not a lot of teams trying to hold on to wins. It was just everyone going for it. And like I said, it was the speed and tempo of it that I loved. And yeah, I am. I've tried to sort of design a game plan that has tempo and energy, because I think if you're going to bring people there for an hour and a half of entertainment and engagement, you want them off their seats. You want them, and there was 12 minutes of extra time last night. I mean, this is not, so like I said, this is not like VAR was brought in last month. It's been in here for a long time, and it's still taking 12 minutes. Now everyone say, oh yeah, but he came to the right decision. Well, like I said, well, that's what people want then. Let's continue, and continue to get this. I don't like it. I am falling out of loving the game, because I loved celebrating goals. I don't, like I said last night, I did, and I'm paying a massive price for it. I'll make sure I don't do it again, but I reckon that's kind of sad.
I do like to listen to what you're saying. I mean, listen, as in take it in. I remember about a year ago when we had another discussion on VAR, you said, in every other sport, technology was brought in to speed it up, but not in football. You did say that, didn't you? Right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's right.
Isn't it sad that I'm sitting here today with a Premier League manager who's admitted they've fallen out of love with the game because of technology? Shouldn't we be looking to go?
No, because I'm the lone voice. I don't hear anyone else saying it. Like I said, that's where I said earlier that I'm disconnected. I don't think anyone else cares. It's like I said, it's like, we're just so accepting of everything in life these days. Maybe I come from a different generation where we used to rail against anybody who tried to sort of change fundamentals of our life. But it's, like I said, it's like the same as the phone. It's just like, you get a phone and you think, this is great. And now we find out that probably does more damage than good in our lives, and at some point it'll get regulated, but it's too late now. It's the same with technology. It was the same game last year here at home where Christian Romero got a red card and a penalty and changed the whole game, maybe changed our season, 12 months later, how can you not sit there and go, well, and you know what? Reflecting on my comments last night, I don't think I mentioned the referee once. I kept talking about the VAR official, which again, I always had the utmost respect for the officials. I sort of prided myself that I never carry on. I'll never get booked. I'll never criticise referees, maybe sometimes decisions, but there's no point in me criticising the referee because he had no involvement last night, apart from being dictated by somebody else to go to the screen, And like I said, you always understand there's inconsistencies because each referee, they're a human being. They're going to interpret things a different way. So you kind of know that week to week you'll get some discrepancy, right? But as I said, you watch the Liverpool-Everton game. I think it was Paul Tini who was VAR official. Now, he was also the official for our Fulham game where I thought Lucas Bergwall should have got a penalty. Now, it's quite obvious that Paul Tini's got a pretty high threshold. Fair enough. But then the next night we get Jared Gillett, who obviously has a lower threshold. So now it's not just the inconsistency of the officials, the referees. You got another guy now. I don't get it. But what you said, sorry, to your original question, isn't it sad? I don't think it is sad. But it's sad for me, but because I'm kind of the lone voice, I don't think it's sad for the game because I think it's where the game's heading. And I guess people want that, and I've got to accept that. I'll probably. When I do finally retire, watch less football and try and find another hobby.
Can I just change tack a little bit with the fans?
Yeah.
Obviously, you've been asked a lot about your own relationship with the fans. Yeah, when you first came in, those first 10 games, it was all I was hearing from every Spurs fan was, "We've got our Spurs back."
Yeah.
Has it really gone that wrong? Or?
Yeah. Look, again, it's probably a better question for the fans themselves. But look, I understand it. It's been a ridiculously challenging season on all fronts, and I get, and every fan's got the right to show their frustration and anger. Like I said, I think it has at times it oversteps, and when it does overstep, I'm not going to stand for it because, again, I'm a little bit old school with that. But they have every right. And I think I said before the game, it's up to us to try and find a way to get them back on board with what we're doing. I still can't get away from the fact that we've got a real massive opportunity for ourselves between now and the end of the season. I think it'd be different if that didn't exist. I think that it would be a tougher sort of road to navigate. But I'm hoping that, irrespective of how the fans feel about me and what I'm doing and sort of the project we've embarked on, is that when those games come around, they just get behind the players and the team, because they can make an enormous difference.